Okay, can we start the recording for today? Welcome to Rise the Healing Summit. You have made it. You made it the last 4 days. Today is the fifth day, the final day, but it doesn't stop here. I know you're going to keep on rising. It's time that we reclaim, ignite, and strengthen and evolve and grow. So let's kick off by sharing where you're tuning in from. If you are here on Facebook or YouTube, and all of you here in the VIP room, hello, good morning, welcome. I hope this isn't your first day, but if it is, welcome to our beautiful space that we have created. I am Deepal Shah. I am your guide to transformation and the mastermind behind Rise the Healing Summit. I help empaths like yourself ignite the healer within by teaching my step-by-step process to quantum body awakening modality. If you have ever dreamed of starting your own spiritual business, I'm your go-to expert, making it a breeze for you to step into your light. My passion is to empower empaths and highly sensitive souls to step into their power, confidence, and voice to fulfill their purpose. And you're in the right place. You're right here with us right now. Yesterday, we had some powerful speakers from Marcy Shimoff helping us to create happiness for no reason. Marcus Bird tapping into harmonizing codes through the Egyptian pyramids. Emily Harrison taking us through the Akashic records, and Nancy Levin helping us realize that our shadows are our gifts. If you did not get to join us live or watch the replay, make sure that you do so because your life will change forever. Hearing everyone's story as to how they have reclaimed, ignited, strengthened, and evolved has been truly a blessing for all of us, and I can feel it. And I would love to hear from you how you've implemented some of those tools that the speakers have shared with us into your life. How have you shifted your mindset, your reactions, your responses to certain things? How has your life shifted? And I urge you to fully engage and be present and take a seat in the front row. So come join us in the VIP room, soak up all the fun with all of our geniuses. You will feel the energy, you will feel their insights and their brilliance. No other summit gives you this opportunity where you can tune in, connect with the speakers. And we have the behind the curtains from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. So if you wish to join the VIP access room, you can do so at the link that my assistant Tiffany will be putting up in just a moment. And so join us there. We'd love to have you bathe in these energies. And we invite you at this moment to really just take some nice deep breaths in and out. Breathing, because it has been a long life. And so just take some nice deep breaths in and set your intention for what it is that you want today. What would you like to unfold? Even though I would say, what would you like for your life? But I want you to think about what would you like for this present moment? And I'm going to go back for the next 25 minutes. I want to take you through a process, which I didn't get to do the first day, but I want to take you through a process. And I talked about the inner senses, our innate ability to feel energy, to know energy, to hear energy, to see energy. And the fact that you have 8 senses, not 6. So maybe that's something new that you just discovered. But sometimes you get frustrated. Maybe because you can't trust your intuition, or you second guess yourself because of somebody else. And we talked about this. So I want you to know that the reason I bring this back to you is because I know you want to trust your intuition and have that confidence because you want to take care of your health. There may be stress in your life. There may be chronic health issues or just some pain and discomfort that comes up from time to time. But if it gets frustrating when you can't really rely on what you're feeling, hearing, and really understand what's happening. And I got many emails requesting that you want to learn to be able to open up your abilities to see, hear, feel, to really ignite that intuition because you know you have it. You just need a little bit of boost. Well, I teach people how to become their own body whisperer. And when it comes to your divine abilities, I want you to know and trust and tell yourself, yes, I have all 8 divine abilities within me. They're given to each and every one of us. It's time to take back control of your body. You don't have to have an accident, a near-death experience. You don't have to go mountain biking and fall off and get hurt or anything to have these experiences. You don't even have to meditate. You can, but you don't have to. And I don't blame you because life is busy. We don't always have the time to sit there and meditate. We don't always have time to take care of ourselves. And so today I want to take you through a process because there's 3 things that I find my clients struggling with when it comes to awakening those inner senses and really tapping into the body is that there are limiting beliefs or you've intentionally turned them off or you have fear that something bad will happen. And I say the second one that you've turned them off is because of some kind of underlying trauma. Okay. See, you second guess because you use your logical mind. I used to do that all the time. I used to just use my logical mind, my analytical mind going, oh, can that be true? Right? We ask ourselves, really? Is that true? Is that me talking to myself? Is that my mind chattering? Right? But this thought process comes because of previous failures or childhood criticisms and judgments. And so you don't feel like your intuition ever really got stronger because it was kind of shut down. And fear of using it, right? Again, maybe childhood trauma. Or maybe you're thinking, what if it's too strong and I make the wrong decisions or I make mistakes? Or what if I steer people in the wrong direction if they come to me for help? But I want you to turn all of these limiting beliefs around. And I want you to say, well, what if I'm correct? What if I can awaken all these abilities and believe in myself again? And that is what we want to open up again, is believing that you are very intuitive if you want to be, and you have a choice. I made that choice for me and my family when I went from pharmaceuticals to stepping into energy healing. And now it's time to make your decision. There are going to be blocks, right? There's going to be mental blocks, physical blocks that sometimes stop us in our tracks. But just because you have so many things going on, right? And I quote unquote that because we all feel like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one in this world that has so much stuff going on in my body that no one can help me. So let's just clear, cancel, delete that belief. If you want to do more in your spiritual practice, your business, you want to create more abundance for yourself, trust me. Has anybody watched Ratatouille? Right? Ratatouille, the best movie. I love Ratatouille. And Gustav, right, who was the chef, he said, anyone can cook. And I believe that anyone can heal themselves. And that is what I teach. I love mentoring my students and watching them grow in their abilities, hearing their excitement when they start to get information and see the healing results themselves, or for their kids, or for their family members, or their pets. And early on, when I was developing my own intuitive skills, I battled with tremendous fear and self-doubt. So I understand if you're in that space. It was hard for me not to compare my particular style and abilities to other people's experiences, and always felt that I wasn't good enough. But guys, that doubt will last only a little bit unless you start. And you heard so many of our speakers saying, get a mentor, get a coach, right? This is your sign. Like, okay, if I want to do this, if I want more spiritual growth, or if I want to tune into healing myself, what do I need to do? Who do I need in my life? And you ask for divine guidance. Open these doors up for me. I'm willing to say yes in my life. Your senses, when awakened, you'll be able to connect with your body, command your body to do anything you want. Imagine, feel into that. What if I can command things to happen for me? How would that feel? Maybe you'd feel healthier, stronger, more grounded. You might feel more whole, more present. So let's do something fun, okay? Let's do something fun. I know we've been talking a lot, but let's do something fun, okay? So let me see some of the comments, guys. I love Anka. This summit made a change in my life. Thank you. Susie, wow. All of the above. Yes. Good morning, guys. So wonderful to see you. You guys do resonate with what I'm saying, yeah? You could just nod your heads. Yeah, so you're ready to do something fun, right? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to stand up, okay? And when you stand up, I want you to just recognize, is one hip higher than the other? Okay, this is just a fun exercise. Is one hip higher than the other? Just nod your heads, yes or no. Like just, you could actually just put your hand like this and see if one hip is higher than the other, okay? Or you could probably tell because you're limping this way or this way, you know what I mean? You're not, or you could tell by your shoulders. You could even put your hand here and see if you are tipped over, okay? All right, so everybody got it. And I know not everybody has their videos on. I would love for you guys to be seen. This is your safe space where you are seen, okay? And you're only seen by me and Tiffany. So as many of you, if you can turn your videos on, that would be amazing, okay? All right, if your hips are evenly balanced, congratulations. I've not usually found people with hips usually balanced, because when we wake up in the morning or walk, we don't always walk the right way. We don't always sleep the right way. We're always out of balance, okay? So if you are evenly balanced, great. Okay. But if you're not, then I want you to see which leg is higher or which shoulder is higher. Okay. And now I want you to close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, take your hands off your hip. And I just want you to tune in and ask your body to balance your hips, your shoulders. And you may feel something happening right now, or you may sense an emotion. And if you do sense an emotion, I want you to command it to dissolve or leave the body. As you breathe in and out, you're commanding it. You may feel your body shifting. Just breathe in and out. Feel that attention going to the hips, and you've made that command. And now you release. And as you stand up once again, I want you to see if your shoulders are balanced. Are they level? Is your hips balanced? What do you guys feel? What'd you notice? Exactly, Donna Lisa. Yeah. What do you guys feel? Did your body do what you asked it to do? Share with me in the comments. Yes. Yes. And it should. It should. It's supposed to. My body started to sway on its own. Yes. Yes, Dorothy. It will sway on its accord because there's some energy there that needs to be released. And so it'll start to sway this way. It'll start to sway this way because it's starting to retrain. And you're actually entraining it, commanding it, making that connection with the mind and the body and saying, you know what, this is how it's going to be. Right. So every morning you could do that so that you are completely balanced. And throughout the day, as like I said, if you're walking and it sometimes takes you off of balance, if you're not wearing the right shoes, or if you have knee issues or whatever, we get off balance. Or if there's an emotion that hits us, a trigger that gets triggered. And so when you do this practice, you'll find that you're going to find more balance and you get to keep your body balanced. But you could do it for other things as well. Okay, this was just something little that I wanted to take you through, right? There's many other things that we can do. A lot of fun exercises because I like making learning energy healing fun. That's my goal, right? It doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, like we need to really, work through it in a way that creates excitement for us. that we want to do it. We want to be there. How can we make it fun for others, who are suffering, right? We don't get too much laughter and fun in our lives sometimes. And we're dealing with all this pain. And yeah, exactly. It's not intimidating, right? So Dorothy says, it clearly had some intelligence guiding things. Then it completed. When the movement stopped on its own, I did feel more balanced and grounded. Yeah. Susie says, I could see the bottom of a circle swaying back and forth, trying to get in balance, slowed down when more in balance. See, look at that. And then Al says, when breathing in, tiptoed, and when breathing out, feel feet landing back to the ground. I love it. You guys are doing amazing. See, so simple things can get us balanced. We don't have to sit there in meditation for an hour just to balance ourselves or to align our spines. But I have a lot of tools, a lot of fun tools that you can definitely take advantage of. So there are some limiting beliefs, I said, when it comes to our senses, what we believe. And I want you to pay attention to your limiting beliefs. Okay, because limiting beliefs can limit you to what you can achieve with your intuition, what you can do with your body. And it instills just a lot of fear. And if you feel like some of those are your blocks and that you just can't get past them, I encourage you to come to the 3-day self-healing immersion. Okay. And I'm just going to share with you a little bit about this immersion because I feel like this is the time. This is the time when you want to tap into that quantum field. Like you are ready. You are here. You are ready to make that move. You made it this far, and I don't want you to stop now. This is where I'm going to share with you my exact processes of powerful groundbreaking technique, working with your prefrontal cortex, which is your consciousness, clearing blocks at quantum speed, unlocking a lot of these tightness and this energy within your body, clearing the blocks that are holding you back in your energy field and other areas. Okay? Especially the hara. We're going to tune into the hara. Has anyone heard of the hara besides through me? Maybe you've heard of me talking about the hara line, but it is a very, very important line. We made a lot of dreams come true. We fulfilled a lot of things in our life because of the hara, because that is our GPS. And so in the 3 days, we will tap into that. We'll clear energy from energy vampires. We'll be practicing how to receive information and understand it through various different practice sessions with each other. And in addition, you're going to learn how to become your own body whisperer, to command your body to do the things that you want it to do. So the self-healing immersion takes place June 5th, 6th, and 7th, and you get 6 hours of live learning with me. And I promise you that it will be an experience that you will just love, just like this one. You enjoyed the 5 days together. Let's enjoy another 3 more. I guarantee you that the 3-day healing immersion is your key to giving you momentum and helping you rise. So if you do sign up, I have extended my bonus to another 24 hours. You get the house clearing ceremony and you get the karma healing program package A. This is worth $3,500. And in each of these programs, you will see that there are immediate results. You can start accelerating your life and start taking action, because when you clear your home, you now have basically a new start. When you clear your karma, you have a new start. And I love new beginnings. Make this your new beginning. Okay. And Tiffany, if you could just put the link to the 3-day immersion. I see Manisha here. I see, is it, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't pronounce your name, but there's Maria. Yeah. How do we say the command? Just ask. Just ask your body to do what you want it to do. There's a little more that goes into that. That's why I have the 3-day immersion class. So, Maria, come join me, right? It's anandaforlife.com/self-healing immersion. Donna Lisa says powerful teachings with astounding results that become the foundation of your lifetime. And that's exactly what I want for you. So it's interesting. I'm not seeing Tiffany, for some reason, again, my Facebook is acting up. I do see lots of hearts and smiles and lots of fingers going up. However, I do not see comments. So for those of you who are here, thank you for being here. I see a lot of you here. And Manisha and Gia, I'm sorry, I can't say your name. I'm trying to say hello to you, but I don't know how to say your name. And I don't want to butcher it. So thank you. I do see a few Facebook posts here, so that's great. All right, so we do have our next speaker coming up, and he should already be here. However, I want you guys to just take a moment and take some nice deep breaths, and we'll get started in just about 2 minutes, okay? Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Hey. Get ready to reclaim, ignite, strengthen, and evolve with Jeffrey. I always mess his name up, last name. Giniak. I got it. Jeffrey Giniak.
That's pretty good. We'll let it slide.
So wonderful to have you here. Let me just go ahead and introduce you. Jeffrey is the powerhouse of wisdom for the brain. He is the youngest person ever to be certified as a practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming at the age of 15. And today he is ready to share with us all of these amazing possibilities for ourselves. Today, you will discover how to heal your trauma from where you are right now, spiritually, energetically, emotionally, and physically. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited because I can't believe it. The youngest practitioner of neuro linguistic programming. I mean, please share your story and what led you to Rise.
Well, when I grew up, it's really simple. I mean, when I was born with all kinds of intellectual delays, ADD, ADHD, all kinds of problems, and it they didn't. It was pretty quickly when my parents found out, and as I was going through school, I couldn't demonstrate that I was learning. I couldn't demonstrate that anything was really sinking in, and the bonus was is that I was born to two psychologists, right? And so that was, even though I came in with sort of a big problem, I was born to two psychologists, and they both worked within the school boards at the time, and so they worked with the teachers and the administration, and they kind of convinced everybody to say, look, even though he's got problems with reading, speaking, I was in speech therapy until grade 6, and they said, you know, some research suggests that if we can keep people moving, right, the brain will they'll just sort itself out. Well, that didn't happen in my case. And that led to, a neuropsych, a comprehensive neuropsych, where they put EEGs on my head. And it's funny now, I have 7 EEG monitoring devices in my office right here. But they, poked and prodded me and did all these tests. And I'm a young boy at this time.
That's a
And
lot to go through as a young kid.
oh, for sure it is somewhat traumatizing,
Yeah,
really. And
exactly.
when they were done, it was interesting. I was within earshot of where they were talking to my parents about it. And they said, look, the way that all the tests that we've done, what we've seen is that Jeffrey's brain, all the areas seem to be working as they should. And maybe even the creative side might even be, quite elevated. So, but the problem as we see it is that there's communication gaps between the various regions of the brain. And if those communication gaps don't get fixed, he's always going to present this way. I mean, the speech is going to be a problem. The mathematical processing is going to be a problem. The emotional intelligence is going to be a problem. Everything's going to be a problem, right? And I'll never forget, my dad looked up and said, so it's a communication problem. And the doctor's like, yeah. I said, well, this should be easy for us to fix. We're psychologists, right? This is our
Right.
thing. And, talking to my dad later, I mean, some of that was for my benefit, the positivity, right? Keep it, because he knew I was within earshot. And, but, look, the neuroscience in the 70s, not what it is today, right?
Oh,
So I'm turning 53 this year, so it gives you an idea. And so, but what my dad did, though, and he studied neuroscience, is he threw everything he could at me, right? He would say, okay, let's go outside, play a game. And if you want to hit from this side, no, hit from this side. You want to eat with the fork this way, no, put it in his hand. Anything he could think of to encourage cross-hemispheric communication. Stayed in from school all the time, doing extra work, extra language stuff. And not a lot seemed to work until one day, it was like a light switch that just came on. That boom, all of a sudden, my speech cleared up. I was able to read at a grade level. It was just, everything came on, big light. And it was right then and there that I realized that I wanted to, I knew that if it wasn't for what my parents had did with me, if I hadn't been so blessed to be born to two psychologists, my life could have turned out very differently, right? It
oh
could
yeah.
be a whole different scenario. And so it was at that age, young age, 13 years old, that I realized that I wanted to be involved and understand the brain. I wanted to be involved in helping people that struggle as I did and move to their highest potential. And so I just became really fascinated. I started reading. My dad noticed, and I caught him doing hypnosis with my mother. At age of 13, I cracked open the door. My mother's like lying on a chair, drooling on herself. And my dad's like, shh, shh. And he's just talking to her, right? So my mother had some health issues at the time and some pain, and he was using hypnosis to reduce pain. And I was really fascinated. Then he started teaching me, and he noticed that I had an affinity for it. And then from there, that's how I ended up in NLP, because there was, in Canada anyway, there was no way, a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old is going to become a clinical hypnotherapist, right? I did that later. But so that was the start of my journey. And as time went on, I got into very strong spiritual aspects, brainwave entrainment, and the rest is history, and also in the present, in the future making.
That is really cool. I've seen your TEDx talks, I've seen other talks, and it's pretty awesome how you share all the clinical aspects of what you're finding. And one of the things we are talking about today is trauma. So what is the biggest symptom of trauma that you see? Because there are many different forms of trauma, and it needs support. It needs, and it doesn't matter how big or small. I used to say, oh, I have a small trauma, because I'd compare my trauma to other people's trauma, but I stopped saying that because
Yeah.
trauma is trauma. But what is like the biggest symptom of trauma that you see in your practice?
So actually, that's a really difficult question to answer, because it seems to be very polarized. In
Hmm.
other words, trauma for some people, small section of people, will catapult them into this hyper creative, hyper success, hyper like workaholic kind of mode, and it drives them to
Yeah.
be super successful, although not necessarily happy. It has that sort of thing. And then their happiness, their peace, and their healthiness crumble, but some aspects seemingly of the prosperity side will go up.
Hmm.
And for a lot of people, it has the reverse effect, right? It keeps them closed in, separate. There's like a self-loathing, self-critical aspects that just seem to take over their lives. And so that if I had to choose one, I would say that's probably the biggest symptom. It's this tendency to be to withdraw, right? Because when a person is withdrawn, they're a lot less likely to be triggered, right?
Right.
When they're out in the world and they're doing things, right? And then there's that whole, and with all of that comes with this guilt, this shame, this ridiculous amount of self-judgment. And I guess ridiculous is a judgment statement, but I mean, I'm just trying to make a point that and it's understandable. It's not really a statement. It's more of an observation. It's just they tend to be more judgmental towards themselves than they are to anybody else in the world, unless they're kind of going through a reversal projection thing. But that self-judgment, that guilt, that shame, the unworthiness, that's a really big one. I'm unworthy. And if the trauma trauma is trauma, correct, but not all trauma is the same. I mean, there's clinically, early onset, delayed symptomatic trauma. So, for instance, somebody that is a child or a kid could have tons of trauma, but the onset is delayed. And now, usually, delayed onset, we think of it in terms of military and stuff, 30
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
60 days, 90 days. But delayed onset can go to, years, 10,
Yeah.
20 years before symptoms show up. And so
Yeah.
when trauma, presents itself like that, that is one of the most difficult cases to deal with. And in a lot of the psychological journals and books, they say a lot about it. But essentially, if you were to sum up what they say, they're basically saying, good luck to you. I
Yeah.
mean, to the
Yeah.
clinician in helping those people, because it's such a dynamic um, set of symptoms and behaviors to go and treat.
Well, you're right. And the reason, and it's interesting that you're bringing up delayed, because I feel like a lot of us at that time, we're just going, 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 and we don't, either our parents don't help us address the trauma, they don't know about the trauma, we don't know what to do about the trauma, because here we are as a child, right? And a lot of trauma I feel happens in childhood, between certain ages, especially teens, or preteen. But delayed trauma I can definitely resonate with, because for me it was so delayed. Like I shoved it down, shoved it down. I'm like, nope, I'm fine, I'm fine. And my trauma was at the age of 10, 11 years old. And then when I was 32 or so, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Mhm.
And I had anxiety, I had panic attacks, I had PTSD. I mean, I had everything that I maybe should have felt earlier on, but I didn't, because everything was just covered. It was all covered up, and it took a lot. It took a lot of healing, a lot of therapy, a lot of support, you
Yeah.
know, to help with the delayed reaction, I guess we could call it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and again, that's very common, right?
Yeah.
And there's a school of thought that says that one of the reasons that that happens is that the trauma was processed at such a deep and profound level that, or recorded at that deep and profound level, and in order, it had to be suppressed to, until a time reach the person at least becomes um, stable enough where they can access the resources to heal themselves and help themselves, right?
Um,
And so it's repressed for
yeah.
that time until that person has the resources available to them, whether they have them themselves or they become aware of them outside where they can receive that support.
Yeah. So how can we train ourselves to enter into a state of more safety and trust and like security, right? Because it's hard to find that peace at that time to bring in that safety aspect. So like how can we, is there like a specific kind of meditation or anything that you recommend to help calm the body down, the nervous system down?
So there's the thing about trauma and where people are in their healing aspect or their awareness aspect can require a whole box of tools to work with, right? And where one person is might be very different from where another person is.
Yeah.
And meditation can be great, but meditation can be problematic depending
Oh,
on where somebody is in their journey. I mean, there's a lot of studies that have been done that certain types of trauma paired with certain types of personality, if they dive deep in to a meditation, all of a sudden a huge expression of all these deep emotions come out at once, and again it becomes too much to handle. So it really depends. And what I like to do, at least, is to teach people a couple things in the beginning. Number one, how to perform affirmations. So not
mm,
just talk about them, not just speak about them, but to completely embody them. And they have to go through a little bit of training about how to choose the appropriate affirmations that will then become from affirmations to assertions, right? A little bit
right.
stronger, and then begin to work with it at that level, and then allow their subconscious and conscious mind to direct them in terms of what the next step is. The other thing that I recommend a lot too is this physical aspect, right? Or interruption aspect. So the more that we can interrupt a program or a trigger, like interrupt it in a real positive way, the more the intensity of that program degrades, right, and starts to misfire and begins it and can very quickly have space so that the person themselves can have more awareness. In the
Yeah.
beginning, if when these some and you probably know all about this. I mean, I went through a lot of trauma in my life as well, and I've had triggers that a trigger would come and the program would run, like the anxiety, the judgment, the all of this stuff, the bad feelings, I'm going to stay in bed for 4 days and not
Yeah.
open. And it happened so fast, there was no space for me to bring in any kind of conscious awareness and to self-direct myself out of it, right? The program is too fast, too hard, and that's the biggest problem, I think, for a lot of people in trauma. They learn about things like EFT, they learn about all these different things, but it doesn't matter at that stage because it's just so fast,
Yeah.
right? It just boom. And but there are a couple quick things that people can do in terms of the physical aspect. I mean, trauma is something that really has to be healed spiritually, energetically, mentally, emotionally, and physically. But there are physical things that you can do to interrupt the process. And the more that process is interrupted, the more space opens up within that trigger, within that program that runs, that all of a sudden gives the person the ability to start to self-direct and move and change it, and no longer 4 days in bed, this kind of thing with
Yeah.
right? I mean, with
Yeah.
the shades pulled down and what have you. And so the physical aspect is actually one of the greatest places to start, because we know this: when the trauma trigger is happening, the energy spins in the brain, usually located in one side or the other. It's disconnected from the prefrontal cortex, the core executive functions of the brain. And, to try to think oneself out of it, virtually impossible until the program runs its course. But by interrupting the program, using the physical body, you then can start to bring in your mental capacities, your prefrontal cortex, to think your way out of it. So I can give you a couple if you'd like to.
Yeah.
And a lot of these have been studied, and it's just quick things you can do with the body. One of them is what they call a double breath. Okay, and at its most basic form, it's simply just stopping and breathing. And then as soon as you got like as much as you think you can get, you do one more. Right? So and then hold for a couple seconds and but I mean like a right? So
Yeah.
you want to throw in some, right? That will change the way your vagus nerve is operating, which we know is a big thing, right? And it'll start. And if some of you've done that with me, you're probably already feeling it. I saw that you did it, right?
Yeah, that
You
was
did
awesome.
it, and you probably got a little head rush a little bit, right?
Yeah, I did.
Right? It just changes the electricity and the wiring in the brain so that you can bring in those thinking mental aspects where you can start to minister to yourself, whether it be spiritually, energetically, even other things mentally, or whatever it is that you want to do, right? And so that's one that's really great. Do 3, 4 of those, change the way you feel about life. You want to do add a little qigong piece to that, right? So I'll back up a little bit so you can see me. So you can do this either sitting down or standing up. So your hands might be down at your side, or if you're sitting down, perhaps on your knees. And so you take that first breath, and as you take that first breath, you're raising your hands up to about here, right? About heart level. So I'll just demonstrate. Right? So this is, so you take that first deep breath and raise your hands in speed with that breath. So, and then that one more breath. Right? And so now your palms are starting to open up the energy in your toroidal field, or your energy field in your aura, right? And so, and if you want to add, so I don't want to make this too complicated, because again, when it comes time to execute this stuff, when either pre-trigger or during a trigger, you want to be able to access fast. And the more complicated it is, right, the less likely, so you can just stick with the breath. But if you have the presence of mind to even include one thing, and you really want to get the energy clearing back in, you start off like this. Right? Get the chakras alive, right? So the breath comes in, that second breath, and just collapse into the hub. Collapse into the hub. And then again, straight. Right? And then if you wanted, you could even just throw a little bit of this in. But again, you could expand this technique, right? The more you get sort of into that. Now, if the present of mind isn't available to do even just that much, you can start with something very simple, and it's called the Superman pose. This one has our Superwoman pose, And this one has been studied and clinically proven to work as well. So you stand up, you know how the Superman stance?
Yeah.
Da, 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 right? You know, push it all out, head back, you know, chest out, head back, looking up. That's really important, looking up, right? Hands on the things, stand up, get, you know, feet a little wider than shoulder width apart, and hold that for a minute to 2 minutes if you can, right? Physicality of some people, maybe not, but you do that. That will also change the wiring and the firing between the brain and the body. And it can do it enough to give you enough space to interrupt that program. So here's, from a physical standpoint, here's what I recommend. People practice variations of these two techniques. Feel free to adapt them to what works for you. I've given you like the kind of the must-haves in terms of getting it to work, right? And you practice them when not triggered, right? Practice them so that your body remembers them.
Yeah.
In your body. So when the time comes where there's a pre-trigger phase that sometimes we can be aware of, but even if the trigger sort of starts, if you can bring that in right away, and you've already kind of got the neurology, the muscle memory built up, right? This is going to go a long way for you. And I, you know, having worked with people with trauma, I cured my first phobia when I was 15 years old, right? I'm doing this for a long time. For some people, this could take, and depending on how often they're triggered, I mean, this could take 30, 60.
Oh, what happened? Volume went out. Jeff, we don't hear you.
A lot of people will find that they will have the space then that helps them reclaim their prefrontal cortex.
Got it. Okay, so we kind of it glitched there for a minute. I don't know what happened. So we heard a little bit of it.
Oh, what did we miss?
I don't know. Where did we miss? Oh goodness.
Well, okay. So I can, let me just run through it real quickly again.
Yeah, just a little back, just a little rewind.
Okay, so the two
part that you were talking about.
The two techniques that I taught that are in terms of the physical aspects, right? The one being the double breath and the, you know, being my favorite, a little bit more complex than just the Superwoman, Superman pose. Right. I recommend that people train their bodies on how to do it when they are feeling good.
Got it.
Okay, because in NLP and hypnosis, we also have something called anchoring, right? That we can anchor something in, we can train the neurology in. And if you practice this while feeling good, you will train muscle memory. And you also will be creating an anchor, a positive anchor, almost a counter trigger. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
God, that's what we missed.
Okay. And so while you're feeling good, do this, practice it, get it so that your body remembers it. Because remember, when triggered, right, oftentimes it disables the prefrontal cortex and it disables a lot of our thinking and our capacity to self-regulate, to self-modulate, and all of this. If you have the muscle memory already done, and it has created a positive anchor because you've practiced this when you felt good, and this will actually improve the way you feel, right?
Got it.
When it comes time to interrupt a trigger, you will have it. You will have it like that. And, you know, how long will it take to create the kind of space, how, like interrupting that trigger again and again and again? How long will it take to create the space where you can gain control over your own mental functions? That varies from one person to the next. It just really does. But sometimes, you know, only.
Sorry, can brain entrainment, like what you do, what you teach, can it be like a complementary approach to other things that we're doing as well for trauma?
100%. Okay. I mean, in a program that I have called Healing Trauma, We have, which I call a living program, because it's a passion in my life. I've had two very important people in my life that have suffered with delayed onset post-traumatic stress disorder. And they were both delayed onset for more than 10 years. And so there's a spiritual approach, there's psychological approaches, there's spiritual, energetic, mental, emotional, and physical approaches. And some of the brainwave entrainment stuff that I do, especially the visual stuff, and that works really well too. You put this on in a video, so it requires a few more steps, right, than just stopping and breathing. Yeah. But you load the video and watch it, and the stimulation that goes into the eyes, affecting everything from the front to the back of the brain and the left and the right of the brain. Put some headphones on. It can absolutely unwind that spinning top, which is stress, anxiety, or trauma trigger. And then from that point, you can do a EFT protocol or something like that. I have something called the sandwich protocol. I must have been hungry when I was naming this one. But, essentially what it is taking what's called a passive brain fitness video, specially designed for this. And the new sandwich protocol is actually rolling out, I think Monday. And it's a passive brain fitness video where you sit and you watch it. It's 2.5 minutes. The auditory is going to force your brain to bounce signals between the right and the left side of the brain. And the visual stimulus is going to help send it back and forth, right? That's so you get inter and intra hemispheric support for the brain. And so when a person is stressed or has anxiety and all the energy is balled up in a top and all the blood flow is stuck in one place, this unwinds the top, expands the blood flow, expands the energy. And then after that, you do, a spiritual practice, an EFT practice, maybe a visualization practice, whatever floats your boat. Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
And then at the end of it, you do what's called just an auditory brainwave entrainment, which is, again, another 2.5 minutes that's designed to integrate and ground, right, the experience. And so in my community, we've had people that come up and said, this is 10x my EFT, my ability to do EFT is 10x my ability to meditate. It is 10x, all these different things. Because when people decide that they need to apply some self-care to them, usually at that point in time, the brain is already compromised, right? Yeah. The trigger's already started. The stress is already there. And so, I feel okay, right? Doing this kind of stuff, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. It's really hard because all the blood flow is stuck in one place. You do this little practice before, it frees it up, and then all of a sudden, whatever it is that you decide to do for your self-care has a much major impact, right?
I agree. I mean, I love this information. I think I'm just looking at the chat and like everybody's, resonating with things that you were saying. I know these guys, everybody that's here is going to incorporate these practices because you just brought a new way of thinking about trauma. I mean, I really never thought about these different aspects and how to treat when you get triggered. And you're right, we should be practicing what you just taught before the trigger happens, right? Before we go into anxiety mode, because honestly, I'll be sitting there going, what did Jeff teach? What was that? And you don't have time for that, right? You just need to practice this each and every day, maybe after you meditate or when you wake up in the morning. I think it's a great way to get that blood flowing, like Susie's saying, right, to the brain. So maybe even doing these practices as an everyday morning routine or afternoon routine or before bedtime. Can they do it before bedtime? I mean, I don't know if it's
sure. I mean, to unwind the spinning top. Exactly. The only thing I would add, if you're going to do it before bedtime, and again, I'm going to bring in Qigong to this aspect, it would be foot tapping. Right. Oh, okay. So physicality, permitting, some people can't do it. Older people, people who have been in traumatic accidents, mobility. Right. So at that case, if they can, they would just sort of stomp their foot and rub it on the ground. So, right. And both feet at a time, maybe about 10 times each. But if you can, right, you'd bring up your foot and, here, I'll take off my shoe. My socks, start tapping here.
Oh, cool.
All the way down. Like this. Okay, before you sleep. So what you would do is you would do that first. Well, actually, the first step is tap, tap, right? And then do the breathing, right?
Okay.
And if, okay. And the reason for the tapping too is that it brings the energy like on the feet before you go to bed. You want the energy to come out of the brain. So it's one thing to balance it, right? But you also want it to come out of the brain and move down. And that prepares you for a better sleep, right? And so the most advanced version of that protocol, okay, for before bed, right? Heat it up, get the thing, do the tapping, do 3 or 4 rounds of the breathing, and then finish with the tapping. That's the
All
most complex version of it, right?
Wow.
Before bed. Now,
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to do the tapping aspect of it, in terms of the feet in the morning.
Okay.
But practicing this
At
in
night.
general, you're gonna find that it makes you feel good anyway. So I told you to practice it when you feel good,
Yes.
and then you notice you feel better. So
I
wherever
love it.
good level of good you are at, you notice you're gonna feel better after you do it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. Okay, guys, you got a lot of golden nuggets today. I mean, we just started the morning. And so invite your friends, invite your family members to this amazing day that we are having at Rise the Healing Summit. Thank you so much, Jeff. How can people get in touch with you?
So there's a couple things here. I can drop a link if you like.
Well, my assistant has your links unless you have a different link that you want to
Well,
share.
there's two.
Okay.
There's two things. We have that program, the Healing Trauma Program, which really
Yeah.
has spiritual practices. And if people visit that page, there is a image of a guy that his name is Gary. He's a master sound healer, master spiritual, and my community loves him. You'll see a little video. He's just talking about the spiritual aspect. But if you read everything on the page, we have master classes on performing affirmations, self-regulation, all these different things. And new resources are added all the time. If you use the coupon, I think JG52, I think if that's attached to it, you might get a good discount on that. But and it's a significant investment, there's no doubt about that. If somebody though wanted to say, Jeff, I want to learn a little bit more about you, some of maybe your spiritual side, some of the other stuff you can do, we have this free thing that's called the Prosperity Sound Bath. And I know it might not seem like it's quite related to trauma, but the unique thing about prosperity energy, the tide of prosperity, is it raises all boats, right?
Okay.
So that energy, the prosperity energy, can be extremely healing for people. There's an option to get that. I think if you went to jgeniac.com/prosperity, you can get a free prosperity sound bath, right? There's more information, especially about me and the spiritual work, and that's free.
Okay.
And then from that point, so jgeniac.com/prosperity, at that point, you go, you know what? I'm in for the healing trauma package. Then you can go back to that. It's whatever you like.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff, for being here. Thank you for everything that you do for all of us and the world. And it's just been an amazing time together. And so thank you so much for your time and
Oh, you
your
got the links up there.
generosity of teaching.
I'm thrilled. And if you ever want to do this again, and you know where I'm at. I'm happy. I'd love to share it.
I
All right.
do.
I know you got to go.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay.
We'll see you at
Bye-bye.
1. Bye-bye.
You bet.
All right. So you guys who are in the Zoom room, you'll get to ask Jeff questions. So make sure you put them down because at 1 o'clock, he is going to be back. If those of you who are on Facebook or YouTube and you want to join us, you know where to join for the VIP Rise the Healing Summit. Tiffany will put the link in the Facebook group as well as the YouTube, and you can join us in the Zoom room because today we also now have Lonnie coming up. So let me go ahead and have Tiffany put up Lonnie's video because Lonnie could not be here. She lives in Hawaii, but she will be here for the 1 o'clock for the VIP room behind the scenes. Okay, guys? So listen to her pre-recorded video, and we're going to put that up now. Get ready to reclaim, ignite, strengthen, and evolve with one and only beautiful Lonnie Kamahu Yamasaki. I am so excited to connect with Lonnie. She's a great friend. She's a great mentor and a coach. And I got to know her the beginning of this year, and we hit it right off as if we've known each other forever. She brings to us today traditional Hawaiian healing practices to navigate huli hia. Huli hia. And that took a little bit of practice. So, huli hia and consciously co create the life that you desire and the new earth. So, I'm so excited to have Lonnie. Lonnie, welcome to the stage.
Oh, aloha, Deval. I am so honored and excited to be here with you and everyone, our fellow light workers in Rise.
I am so excited, and it's such a pleasure, and for you to take this time to share with us this wisdom and knowledge that you have about these Hawaiian practices that we do hear about, but we don't really know about, right? And so I feel like this is going to really help in our evolution. But speaking of that, I would love to really dive deep and share with us all of what you have been faced with, like all your challenges. Well, not all of them. That might take a while, right? Because we have lots of challenges in our days and years, but like the challenges that really impacted you, your story to rise.
You're right, Deval. And I have a sense that many of us here have so many stories. And I think what comes to me now when I'm with you is what happened. So I am Hawaiian, I'm Chinese, I'm Japanese, and I'm English. So it's Welsh blood there, actually. And what happened when I really began to look at my kuleana, and kuleana is Hawaiian for your sacred responsibility, it's your authority, and it's your work. And that means I had to start to understand my genealogy deeply. And what I learned is I delved deep into the cultural genocide that happened with not only our Hawaiian community, my Hawaiian ancestors, but also the Japanese. I hadn't quite delved into the Chinese. And what I learned is why my father was an alcoholic and why many of our family members and our community, the Japanese men, were alcoholics. And for our story, right, it's because our family was interned in Hawaii during World War II. As citizens of the United States, they're interned here in Hawaii. And at the same time, my uncles went off to war and became quite decorated as the famous 100th Brigade. But when they came back, just like many veterans today, they were not welcomed in the way that they were taken care of. Their needs weren't attended to, which lapsed into drinking, for one thing, right? And so, yeah, I was raised in a really challenging environment with alcoholism, and I had to understand why for the forgiveness to begin to take place. And only when I began to go deeply and understand my father's story, understand how his story became everyone's story in our family, that I began to understand what compassion meant. And that took a deep dive because I actually confronted my father and said, that's it. This is just not right. We were raised with this horrible violence since we were little kids. It has to stop now. He denied it and basically said, you have no right. You're disrespecting me, right? Very much the Japanese father. You're disrespecting me.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that.
Oh, okay. So we have some things to talk about there.
A lot.
Yeah. But so when he walked out of me, I said, if you walk out of me, forget it. I'm no longer your daughter.
Yeah.
So I walked out and he actually returned to me less than 5 minutes crying and said, and this is the definitive moment that changed my life forever. He said, okay, I'm going to take responsibility for what happened when you were a child. But now you're an adult. You need to take responsibility and be accountable for your life. And I literally, from just like ranting
Wow.
and raving and being the like very much in a victimhood mode, I remember just stopping and saying, I get it. Okay. And I shifted. I mean, my life had forever changed. And
Yeah.
that's when I began to rise, working with these Hawaiian principles and actually their practices, their lifelong practices, which changed my life forever.
I love that. I mean, I can resonate with a lot of what you're saying, the respect. And it's interesting because I hear the same thing. Like I heard the same thing from my father, and then I hear the same thing from my husband, and we feel like when our children speak up or when they speak to us, we feel like it's a disrespectful thing, right? Just showing us the way. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
And trying to heal us, right? Parts of us that we don't understand, but as parents, you can become very resistant and maybe go to that avenue of, oh, that's disrespectful. And of course, it's so great to see that you opened up and you saw that your father was actually giving you a message, even though, and he was so vulnerable, right? He was
Yes.
humiliated, and
Yes.
you could see that as a child. And so I think, yeah, definitely that brought so much healing. And now you are traditionally initiated to carry on a healing work, on the healing work of your Hawaiian ancestors. So what does this mean?
Well, it's a great honor. And again, this is my kuleana. This is my life work. It's my privilege and it's my sacred responsibility. And what it means is, oh my goodness. So I will be 64 this year. And
Oh, wow. You're beautiful.
well, you know what? I on that note, I believe that I'm surrounded by ageless elders who are in their
Yeah.
70s and 80s. And I've always asked, like, particularly the women, what is your secret? And they said, you need to immerse yourself in your kuleana. If you love what you do, it's like the fountain of youth. And I believe that because, and you know this yourself.
Yes.
Yes. When you immerse yourself in doing what you love to do and it's your purpose and your kuleana, you're different, it gives you vitality. And so what that means for me is I primarily mentor mental health care and medical professionals
Mm,
with these lokahi practices, which really bridges science with spirit and indigenous healing traditions.
I love it. I love it. So what kind of training did you have to undergo to be initiated by your elder? And I'm going to try to pronounce the name correct, but it's Halai Aloha Makoa, correct?
You're doing
Halai.
so well. It's it's Hale Aloha. So
Got
house of aloha. No, it reminds me of when I lived in Los Angeles, when I was in college. I was trying to read all the freeway names and the street names. I just couldn't do it.
I mean, he's the respected as the kahuna, right? So what was your training that you underwent?
Yeah. Well, Makua's training was very Socratic method, so a lot of questions. But I would sit with him we could not take notes. I mean, you could, but you
Oh,
would never.
wow.
Yeah, no, it's all here. And so you'd never be invited back again if you took notes. So, I did take notes. And what it was is hours of training on Vahipana, or sacred sites, sacred and storied sites. Because as he would share his information with us, the aina, or the land, would be imbuing us with the mana, or sacred energy, and helping
Mm,
to shift our energies and help us to learn as well. And then he would send us off on missions, or I was really good at finding my own missions, and go around the world. And when I say go around the world, for me it was to go to different sites of peacekeeping
mm,
and learn from the lands there, and learn from the traditional caretakers, which are actually the shamans or the medicine people of the tribes. So this would take me around the world. And when I did it, I really understood how we are more similar than different.
wow. I think when we start to explore more outside of ourselves, we will find that. And I hope that each and every one of us gets that opportunity to do something like that. And we often hear this term that you're saying, kahuna, right? You mentioned that. What does that mean?
Oh, that's such a great question because I'm going to say I have to be. I'm pretty forthright. So Kahuna actually means master,
Uh,
an expert. So there are different types of Kahuna. Like you can be Kahuna of chanting, you can be a Kahuna of canoe making, of astronomy, of archaeology. There are different types of Kahuna, and the rites, yes, the rites of passages are really rigorous, and you know, I grew up watching the 1960 movies of Cowabunga. I mean, like the Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello and Beach Blanket, and they always used to term the big kahuna. Well, I mean, if they're referring to an expert in surfing, I understand that. But it's a term that I feel and many Hawaiians feel is misused.
huh.
And the kahuna, so my kupuna, my elder, Hale Makua, we'll call him Makua, and those of his generation that came before, we will never see kahuna like them. And
Wow.
yes, in fact, who dares to call themselves kahuna these days after
Yeah.
these great, right, traditional masters are not physically here with us. And note, I said physically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. We feel the same way in India. Some of the great masters, like Yogananda and many of the masters that we have, we don't know if we're going to have the same type of gurus and yogis that will guide us and give us that guidance. And so it's so great that we do have the Vedic traditions and the Vedic scriptures so that we can refer back to some of that stuff. But it would be so nice to be in the energy for those who were in that energy of the kahuna or the yogi, right? Uh,
Yes.
just so different and enlightening, I guess you could say.
Yes, yes, just by being in their presence. And, side note, but one day I'd love to sit down and learn and talk story with you about the great yogi traditions and the Hawaiian traditions because so many of them, right, they
Yeah.
dovetail.
They coincide, right? Like I just went to Peru, and even in Peru, the shamans. Now there are many types of shamans, but as our guide was saying, there's a lot of fake shamans, so you have to be careful. And so when we had a shamanic ceremony, we made sure that they connected us with somebody who was, and you could feel their energy. There's a difference, right? And so it was just beautiful. So yeah, I would love to come back to Hawaii and really feel and connect with somebody. Like, who is there, like a secondary to the big kahuna or the main kahuna? Like, who is there now that somebody could connect with if they
Yeah.
were to come to Hawaii?
So there are those of us in our 60s and even 70s who are still on Earth. That's the next generation. But again, no titles.
Okay, got it.
No titles. We simply do it. If we have any titles, there are two titles. It's Kahu, so Kahu, which
Okay.
is the keeper of knowledge. So you keep a keeper of knowledge, steward of knowledge, and also you can be called a Kumu. So this is so Kumu means a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And Kumu, it's interesting, also means foundation and source.
Ah, I love it. I love it. So now let me ask you one thing because this has been on my mind. Now you share that hulihia is a natural cycle. Okay,
Yes.
we've talked about it before, and that we are experiencing hulihia on a massive planetary scale. When
Yeah.
you when do you think this consciousness began to form during our lifetime?
Wow. So I believe that Huli which means life flips over, like Huli means to flip over, to turn around, to
Okay,
reverse, right? And
yes.
he, yeah, and Hia means to create fire. Okay, so when we go through Hulihia, life as we have known it, will never return. It's gone. It's
Yeah.
flipped over, right?
Yeah.
And I believe it began to happen, seriously happen, during the pandemic, during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And
I mean, I
well,
truly believe that just because there was a lot that everybody was going through together as one, right?
yes,
And just a different kind of awakening for everybody. I know everybody had some form of awakening at some level at that
yes,
time, for sure.
you're absolutely right. So, for us, when we say aloha in Hawaiian, we're actually saying ha is your sacred breath of life. It's signified by the number 4, which is foundation, and the foundation of mysteries that allows you to come home to yourself. If you go into the mysteries and understand who you are and what you're here to do. So when we share our ha with each other, we're sharing our sacred breath of life,
Mm,
right? And we have a
yeah,
saying, and maybe you have a saying here in Vedic scriptures, that there is life in words, there is death in words,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
in other words, it's saying when we share our breath gives one another life or death. And I think that the pandemic made it implicitly clear to, right, globally, the power of our breath.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It took a lot of breaths away, and yet it brought a lot of breath in so many ways, if you really think about it. Um,
Yes, yes,
so are there certain opportunities and gifts that Hulihia does bring to us? Uh,
absolutely. I mean, that's another great question. Absolutely. When we experience something that where our life goes into upheaval, when you can go into the abyss or into chaos, certainly, it is an invitation from your soul. You can say also from divinity, from your source, from God, from your ancestors, to question, well, then how can you make this right? And particularly, what do you value? And what is still a value? And what is extraneous for your best and highest good? And that's the beginning.
I love it. So are there some traditional Hawaiian practices that which can help us to navigate Hulihia and co-create the life we desire?
Absolutely. So at the center of Hawaiian cosmology is our value, and it's also a very important practice called lokahi.
Hmm.
And lokahi means harmony and unity and accord. But harmony and unity, it looks like this. It's an equilateral pyramid or triangle with divinity at the top. So gods, goddesses at the top. Then we have humanity or kanaka, and we have aina or nature and earth. And all realms are able to live because they support one another,
Yeah,
right? That's true interdependency.
yeah.
So when we practice lokahi, lo, aloha, right? Lo is actually the spirit. Kahi is number 1, but kahi also means fire.
Yeah.
So when we practice this reciprocity between all 3 realms, we literally ignite our pineal gland area, and
Mm,
enlightenment. Yes, and enlightenment occurs.
I love it.
So, and it's a lifelong practice. So
Yeah,
let's begin, right? So now we have a foundation of lokahi. The
yes.
first practice would be, so when people come to me and go, I want to learn Hawaiian culture, I
Yeah,
want to feel, right? It's like, okay, well, who's your source? Oh, I
yeah,
don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. Oh, well, that's so fine. So if you want to explore that, then this
yeah,
is but you have to be willing,
yeah,
right? To say, I may not know the answer, but I'm willing to explore. Who is my star? God, Buddha, Daganawida, Buddha, who is my source? Okay, you're
yeah.
come in, but you need to identify.
Would you
Okay.
be able to take us through a 2-minute process to experience a little bit of this? as we have about 5 minutes left. And so I would really love it if you can do maybe a minute, 2 minute process to guide people.
I could. It's going to be actually, sure. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, we've already begun the practice.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we have this much time left. I'm just going to go right around. Okay. So, number one, you need to understand who your source is and identify your source, whether you say God, Buddha, divinity, right? Sophia. Second, let's go around the pyramid. Then you have to come to Kanaka or humankind. Let's start with family, which is Ohana. But Ohana includes source, divinity, ancestors, the generations, right? Your grandparent generation, the present generation, and those yet to be born, which is saying that we may leave our bodies in spirit, but energy still exists. And you can communicate not only with your source, but also with your ancestors as your guides, and even those yet to be born as your guides. Identify, go into meditation. Who are the family members that support you the most? Particularly look at your ancestors. And then let's look at Aina, which is nature and earth. Number one, your physical Aina. Does your Aina, does where you live, sleep, work, and play support you? If not, it's time to make a shift. There's 3 types of Aina. We don't have time to go into them. But I think going around the Lokahi triangle and realizing the interdependency and what happens when you identify source, ancestors, family members that make you feel good, whole, and allow you to thrive. And certainly go to your physical place, your physical Aina, your earth and nature that supports you or doesn't support you. So you can see how knowing these 3 sectors, right? It's a dynamic way of being.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Thank you. We need that. And so let me ask you, how can people get in touch with you if they wanted to learn more?
Oh, thank you for that, excuse me, question. Actually, if you go to my website, or do we have the websites here?
We will be.
Okay, perfect. Then go to my site and check out the Lokahi Blueprint. If you do this, everything we just spoke about, you'll learn more about here, right? And you can get on our mailing list to receive ongoing tutorials. And then finally, what we're offering here in the summit, I think it's an offer you can, yes, a paid offer. There you go, Core Hawaiian Healing Traditions. You can find more about what we spoke about here.
Perfect. Perfect. If you are in the Zoom room, you have the VIP access. This will allow you to grab Lonnie's free VIP offer. And then for those of you who are on Facebook and you want to become a VIP, you want to have that VIP access to all the great goodies that all of our guests have offered to the summit, then you can take advantage of it just by joining us today, as Tiffany will be putting the link up right now. If you do want to join and get all the freebies that our speakers have put together, as well as an additional 1 hour after the after party, I like to call it, which is music and interviews and Q&As and just a lot of fun. So come and become our VIP accessor. And let me not forget, you do have unlimited access to all the replays, as well as all the fun gifts and 15-minute discovery call with me when you do sign up for the VIP access. Now, any last words you want to share?
Just how honored I am to be here with you, DePaul, with this amazing, you've created an amazing community and venue for people to come home to themselves. And I'm so grateful and honored to be here with you and our fellow companions along the way. Mahalo. Thank you so much.
Mahalo. Thank you so much, Lonnie. It has been wonderful to have you here. My heart to yours. I love you. I'll talk to
I
you
love
soon.
you. Aloha.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Yes, how was it? Put it in the chat. And we're gonna see, just kind of get a little bit of a temperature as to how everyone is doing. And we do have the links in the chat as well as on Facebook and YouTube. So if you need to grab any of the links that our speakers are offering, you can do so in the chat in the comments, okay? All right, awesome. So I see our next guest is here, and I am so excited to introduce you guys to her. Get ready to reclaim, ignite, strengthen, and evolve with our beautiful Deborah Poneman. Deborah is the best-selling author and founder of Yes to Success and Ageless Seminars. She is the founder of Yes to Success, Inc. and Ageless Seminars. She is the best-selling author and internationally known success and anti-aging expert. Now, since 1981, she's empowered hundreds and thousands to live their dreams by providing a system to creating financial abundance, true inner and outer success, and the radiant health to support it. Who does not want this? I want it. So get ready to slow, stop, and reverse aging of your brain and body. Let's welcome Deborah Poneman here. Hello, Deborah.
Hi, you look so beautiful today.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have you here. It's just such an honor, and I can't wait to really just dive in and really hear your story about your rise.
Well, yes. Well, you want me to tell my story?
Yeah, we would love it.
Okay,
You know what?
I'm
The reason I ask, right? Because, and the reason I start with that question is because we've all been there where we've been here, right? Like really low. And people like yourself who have become so successful, is it possible for us to do that as well? And I know that's what our audience wants to know. Is it possible for me? And with your success, and I mean, you're gorgeous, anti-aging, and we're all looking for anti-aging remedies, right? And we spend so much money on it, but I don't think we need to do that. And I think you have the key to that. So I want to know what your rise is first, and then we're going to dive deeper into that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a real Cliff Notes version of how I started out when you said, is it possible for everyone? Positively. Absolutely. So, I became a meditation teacher. I think you know this. I went to teacher training to become a TM teacher in 1971. So you could do the math of how old I probably must be. And I was a teacher by 72. And then I taught meditation full time for the decade of the 70s. But at the end of the decade, I realized that woman does not live by mantra alone. And I needed things like health insurance. So, and car insurance and maybe a car to insure. So I was living in a meditation community in Fairfield, Iowa at the time. I thought, how do people make money? And I thought, oh, they sell investments. I thought, where do they live? They live in LA. I watched the Beverly Hillbillies and, everybody looked rich. So I moved to LA and I started selling investments. I was a dismal failure, but I was invited to a seminar that apparently was supposed to help me make more money in what I was doing, which was selling investments, which it didn't do that because I quit the next day, but it did open up my eyes to the idea that there are ways to use your mind to create your reality. Yeah. It wasn't something about a meeting about stocks and bonds. It was a meeting about how anybody could create their reality by how they vibrate. And the guy, this is 1980, and the guy is saying that we're like tuning forks. And if a tuning fork is vibrating at an F sharp and a B flat comes towards it, it repels the B flat, but if an F sharp comes towards it, it augments the F sharp. And if we're always talking about how, oh, we're so broke, there are too many podcasts, I'll never be successful with podcast, too many people already talk about leadership, or I'll never find my soulmate. Well, that's how you're vibrating. So your soulmate comes towards you, boom, you push that person away because everything is vibratory. So I just vibrated myself into, and I read the great masters, Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Florence Shinn. And I read all of the great masters of success and prosperity, and they said the exact same thing. Your mind, your vibration creates your reality. So I used what I learned from those masters, and I created this international presence. And within a few short years, my Yes to Success seminars were being taught. I was teaching them in 12 major US cities, and I had reps on in 9 countries, which was a big deal before the internet. We didn't even have fax machines back then. It was phones with curly cords connected to the wall. You were probably not even born yet.
Oh, no, I
But
was.
and when you call people on the other side of the ocean, it's like the static, you can't hear what they're saying. Right. So, but I managed to create an international presence, and tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, either heard me speak or took my seminar. But now let's talk about ageless, because what happened was that I didn't teach about anti-aging, but people kept asking me, how on earth, because I'm 72 now, and they say, you must have had a facelift. I said, no, actually, this is like really me. You must dye your hair. No, actually, this is really me. Oh, my hair looks great from the light. It's just the light. It's not. And they said, what do you do? And I thought, okay, well, maybe I was happily teaching Yes to Success for, 40 years. But I thought maybe I should teach people how to naturally slow, stop, and reverse the aging process. So I created a webinar and I created a course. I called my friend Ronnie Newman, who I went to Washington University in St. Louis with in 1972. And she went on to Harvard, and she became a mind-body researcher specializing in slowing and reversing aging of the brain and the body. So I just gave her a call. I said, hey, how about starting a seminar company with me, and let's teach people how to protect their beautiful brain, their beautiful skin, and slow down the hands of time. And that's what I did. And now we put that course together, and we've shared that knowledge with thousands of people around the world.
Well, speaking of hands of time, what do you believe are the keys to turning back those hands of time?
Well, the usual suspects: healthy diet, the right kind of exercise, because some exercise can actually age you, the right kind of sleep, rejuvenating sleep, a mindset that doesn't believe that you're going to fall apart when you turn 50 or 60, getting stress under control, avoiding toxins in your environment. Do the things we have control over. We don't have control over everything. But if you're only going to do one thing, let's just start out with one thing that people can do to change their lives and slow down the aging process. I would say change your diet and start with eating antioxidant rich foods, because free radical damage, those free radicals, I'm not going to go into the science, but you cut an apple and it turns brown. That's because the apple is oxidizing. Well, that's what happens to your skin when you go out into the sun. That's what happens when you eat foods that are oxidizing to you, foods with nitrates, foods with preservatives, foods that are GMOs. They oxidize your cells. Then, if you squirt lemon juice on an apple, it won't turn brown. Well, there are things that you could do. You don't have to squirt lemon juice on yourself, but you could eat things like blueberries, blackberries, red grapes, cherries, beets, a lot of red things there, strawberries, kale, spinach, broccoli. Write these things down: walnuts, pecans, and of course, organic, because the pesticides and the herbicides cause the most major free radical damage. And if you're only going to do one thing in the realm of diet, if you're like, oh, I'm not going to eat kale or spinach or beets, okay. If you only go for one thing in the realm of diet, stop eating white sugar. It is the worst offender when it comes to brain inflammation. And inflammation is the main cause of your brain atrophying or aging too fast. When you go into a room and you can't remember why you walked in, or where you put your keys, or your friends' kids' names, or your own kids' names.
Yes. Or mix up your kid and your dog.
Right. Which I have to admit I do sometimes, but um, what the real culprit, white refined sugar in foods that act the same in your system, like refined carbs, white bread, white pasta, it is causing inflammation that slows down communication between the neurons in your brain, and it causes you to feel dull and foggy and forgetful. And furthermore, brain inflammation is serious because the more you bombard your nerve cells with things like white sugar, your brain cells start dying. And that is what plays the most significant role in memory loss and Alzheimer's and other degenerative diseases spurred on by inflammation, like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis, osteoporosis, even some cancers. So start using sugar substitute. And I do not mean, saccharin or Splenda, aspartame, because those are even worse than
Yeah.
sugar. But if you can get some good organic stevia, monk fruit, but make sure
Yeah.
that when you look on the package, it does not say erythritol. People think
Exactly.
erythritol is okay. Anything that ends with the tol is a sugar alcohol. It is not okay.
And
So
that's all they sell, Deborah. That's all they sell out in the market when I looked at the packaging, and it's for cheaper, right? And then if you go to Amazon, you still need to look at all the labels.
yeah, there is a brand that I get, and it's like Lakota or something like that is the
Okay.
name of it. And I could even look it up before we get off the line, or I could send it to you or whatever.
Yeah.
But or when people get my free gift, they could also send me an email. It says, "What is the name of that?" I think
Yeah,
Lakota is the brand. Yeah, it's very hard to find things
because you
without
need very little
erythritol.
of monk fruit. You don't even need a lot. I mean, monk fruit, I'm like a pinch, and it's like, whoo,
Right, exactly. It's like, saccharin. You just need a little monk fruit, but
Yeah.
it's good for you. Also, coconut palm sugar is fine, date sugar, but always organic. Monk fruit is always organic just because it's only grown in an area of Southeast Asia where pesticides are just never used.
Right.
Um, I mean, even unprocessed cane sugar, if you really can't, while you're weaning yourself from white sugar, even unprocessed organic cane sugar doesn't cause inflammation like white sugar does. But again, no Splenda, no NutraSweet, those cause worse brain inflammation. So I think that those are a few things to slow, stop, and reverse the aging of your brain and your body.
I love it. I took so many notes. And one of the things that I noticed that my clients that I work with have a problem with is sleep. So as you age, as we age, and sleep can become an issue, right? Because of our old practices of not being able to sleep or childhood trauma that had happened, right? So how do we repattern our sleep, and how many hours do you recommend usually?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked that question because, okay, so I'm going to give everybody a quiz who's here. And you could put in the chat, is it better to get 9 hours of sleep between midnight and 9 or 7 hours of sleep between 10 and 5? What do you think?
Between 10 and 5.
Right? 7 hours of sleep between 10 and 5. Okay. But you might want to know why, because people think, oh, I need my beauty sleep. I always sleep at least 8 or 9 hours. It's good, but it's not so much the length, it's the time. Why? Because human growth hormone, which is the anti-aging hormone, human growth hormone is in abundance between the hours of 10 and 12. Why? Because our bodies still go by the same circadian rhythms that they did when we didn't have electric light bulbs. So before we had electric light, when the sun went down at like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, we went to sleep and the human growth hormone started increasing. And by 10 and certainly by 12, it's at its peak. And then it precipitously drops at midnight. So if you go to bed at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, you are not getting hardly any human growth hormone. So if you want to turn back the hands of time in terms of sleep, it's not so much how much you get, but it's going to bed early. So most human growth hormone and a human growth hormone strengthens the bones. It gives you more supple musculature. It reduces stress. It's all of the, you need human growth hormone if you want to remain ageless. And one other thing, I'll just give you one more tip about sleep. Sleep in a dark room. Because I used to say to my friend Ronnie, who taught me this, she said, I used to say, oh, I can sleep with a bright light on. She says, yeah, but you're not producing melatonin. And melatonin is only produced in darkness. So now, not only do I, light blocking curtains, but even with light blocking curtains, I put on a mask so that you have the darkest possible room so you produce the most melatonin.
So one of the things you said, right? So this is really interesting because we have those growth hormones, which are really important. The time for sleeping 10 to 5 or 10 to 7, right? Really crucial times. Now, if you think about it, guys, those of you who are watching, if you ever sleep late, right? You wake up early, or you wake up at 7, or even if you wake up late, you feel more groggy, your skin feels more dry, right? I mean, you'll see the texture of your skin, and you'll also feel it in your body. You just don't feel like yourself, because I know that, at least that's for me. Now, if you guys want to express what you feel when you do sleep, when you don't get enough sleep, or when you sleep really late. I mean, I know people who sleep 4 o'clock in the morning, right? And the bright light you mentioned, I can't even have like a little, like the alarm clock light in my face, or even the little lights, they're very tiny lights. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. I cannot sleep. So it's interesting. If I go to somebody's house, I have to take the night light out. I have to turn off all the lights, make sure all the curtains are closed, especially when we go to a hotel room, because that's just how I've been trained, which thank goodness. But for some of us, we have to train ourselves to do these things and make the changes. So what is an easy way to start making changes, especially with sleep? Like, is there one thing that you would recommend?
Yeah, there's one thing I would recommend. Do it. No, what I would say is, being somebody who actually, I do a lot of my business with people in India, and they're on the actual opposite time schedule. And I just had to say, sorry, guys, you have to go by my schedule, because the difference in how I felt was so enormous when I started going to bed earlier that I don't want to sacrifice it. But if you're one of those people that does like to burn the midnight oil, I would say, and you're thinking, oh, I go to bed at 1, there's no way I'm going to bed at 10. Okay, tonight you can go to bed at 1:45. Do that for a little while. Then 12:30, you do that for a little while. Then 12:15, you do that for a little while until you get down to 10. And you're going to find that your life is so much better. Your mental clarity is so much increased that you will be so much more efficient in your activity, that you'll get so much more done. You don't have to stay up until 12 or 1.
Yeah, I agree. So the other thing is, so now we went over healthy diet, we went over sleep. Now, exercise. You said the right exercise.
Yes,
Ooh,
the right kind of exercise.
I never thought about that there was a wrong and right exercise. So many of
Yes.
us just exercise a lot, right? We'll exercise an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or we might not exercise at all.
Okay. Well, there's now compelling research that's concluded, if you want to anti-age, that there are 2 exercise methods that can slow the aging process better than others by preventing cellular aging. You might be surprised to hear what they are, and no, one is not yoga. One is endurance training, like aerobics or rowing or bicycling, and the other is high intensity interval training, or HIIT, which is, as you can guess, if you don't know what HIIT is, it's very high intensity bursts of cardio exercise followed by equal or longer periods of rest. So not necessarily like you go to sleep, but what I mean is, think 30 seconds of walk as fast as you possibly can. And then another 2 minutes of slow walking or slow jogging. Okay. Or bicycling. Come on, stand up, bicycle, half a minute. And then just leisurely bicycle for another minute or two. In a study published in the European Heart Journal, researchers examined the effects of different types of exercise over a 6-month period with hundreds of participants, and they were told to perform one of several different exercise modalities. And at the end of the 6 months, the researchers found that the people who did high-intensity interval training actually increase their telomere activity. I don't know if you guys know what telomeres are, but they're the nucleotide sequences found at the end of our chromosomes. And when they shorten, aging occurs. And high intensity interval training, anaerobic training was number 2, were the only modalities found to increase telomere length, thus producing an anti-aging effect. You know, the telomeres shorten as we age. These are the only exercise modalities that lengthen telomeres. Now, I want to go back to yoga for a second. If you do the kind of yoga, you know, where you, okay, now let's, you know, bend our arm. No, that ain't going to work. If you do high intensity yoga, then where you get your heartbeat accelerated, then that would be an exercise modality that would be considered endurance training.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So I know a lot of our audience want to know this. So one of the things that I've seen after 40 is the eyes, right? The eyes feel like they start to age very quickly. You start wearing bifocals, you can't see, you know, you're going like this all the time. You need lights. What is the science saying that is one of the most insidious causes of aging, like of the skin and damage to our eyes? Like, is there a connection to the whole, like all these things that you're sharing with us of doing, would that also help our eyes? Like, what's the anti-aging for our eyes?
I am going to tell you what the anti-aging for your eyes. And I see Tiffany is here. Tiffany, she's your assistant. She's amazing. You are so lucky.
Thank
She's like
you.
so
Feel lucky.
She almost gets my emails back to me before I even press send. She's amazing. Anyway, I love her. So, okay. So what is science saying is one of the most insidious causes of aging of the skin and damage to the eyes? Can anybody guess what it is? Anybody guess what it might be? Put in the chat, because I bet somebody knows. Nobody knows. Okay, water. No, but do stay hydrated. Drink at least half your body weight in water every day. Definitely. I mean, if you want your skin to be youthful, right, Donna Lisa? I mean, if you want to look like if you want to look like a raisin, don't drink water. If you want your skin to look like a grape, then you drink water. But actually, the most insidious, what does most insidious damage to our eyes is the blue light that emits from our computer screens.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
And this is in addition to the EMFs, which are a whole long topic for another day. But the light that comes off our screens is called blue light, and it's known to have long-term health effects. Even the health letter of the Harvard Medical School in July of last year said blue light can affect your sleep. So you want to turn off your devices at least an hour or two before you go to bed. You know, don't watch TV to put yourself to bed, because even if it's over there, it's emitting blue light, and potentially blue light can cause cancer, diabetes, heart disease, obesity. Studies also say that continued exposure to blue light over time could lead to retinal damage and eventually even vision problems like age-related macular degeneration and even blindness. Some doctors are saying that blindness is going to be, this is so scary, the most rampant disease amongst our children when they reach adulthood because of the damage that blue light is doing to, and blue light is a particular concern for our children, especially really little ones, because their developing eyes absorb more blue light than adults, putting them at greater risk of damage to the eyes. So some of the other potential diseases associated with blue lights are headaches, suppression of our body's melatonin production, and wearing blue light blocking glasses is
I've
one
seen
of the
those.
ways to protect your eyes. I don't have them on right now because I want to look pretty, but for your children who probably won't want to wear blue light blocking glasses, you want to put a blue light blocking screen on their devices, on their iPads, on their computers. I have one on my phones. 2 years ago for Christmas, Hanukkah, I have 17 godchildren. I gave them all blue light blockers. You can imagine that was what was under the tree for them. Like they weren't all
I
that
would have loved
excited.
that.
But I did it. And they're like, Mama Deborah, what is that? But anyway, so put a blue light blocking screen on your own device. And also blue light has been shown to age the skin. So believe it or not, if you're not going to put a blue light blocking screen, on your computer, you want to put on an SPF of at least 40 if you're in front of the computer for long stretches of time. There is an article in Bazaar magazine where dermatologist Stephanie Williams, she said, we're now seeing increasing data on the potential long-term harm of blue light. She said, our digital devices are swiftly being labeled the silent agers of our generation. The silent agers. And Dr. Murad, you know, he has a great line of skincare lines. He
Yeah.
said that spending 4 8-hour days in front of a computer exposes you to the same amount of skin damaging energy as 20 minutes lying down in the strong midday sun at the equator. I mean, no one in their right mind would lie down in the strong midday sun unless you want skin cancer or skin discoloration. And but you get the same amount of damage to your skin in just 4 8-hour workdays in front of a computer. So get yourself and get a good one. There is a company called AccuShield, which is my favorite
I've heard of it.
company, AccuShield. And I used to like iJust, but I think they went out of business. But AccuShield, don't just go on Amazon and get the cheapest one. AccuShield they have medical grade blue light blocking glasses, and they also have medical grade screens for your computer.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, you just gave another session today with so many golden nuggets, guys. I hope you guys had your notepad. I mean, I just took like 2-3 pages of notes. Like this whole thing, this whole week has been full now. And
I know. Well, so many of my friends were interviewed. People have to go back and buy the VIP thing so that they can get all the interviews. Marcy Scheimoff and Lisa Garr and Lisa Barnett and Joe. I mean, you had the greatest people on this week.
I know.
Amazing.
You know what? I would love to maybe at some point, and I used to do this before. I used to have the global gathering where we'd have all of the people on one screen for an hour and a half, and everybody do like a 15-20 minute spiel, you know? And it was just amazing. It wasn't interview style, it was like a presentation style, and they give a process, a meditation, whatever, and tell a little bit about themselves. And it was beautiful because I started it during the pandemic. And it was so nice. It felt so unified, you know, like all of our forces coming together and just helping the world globally on a monthly basis. And maybe I'll do that again. But I wanted to really help people rise this week. You know, it is still, I feel like the beginning of the year, and we still have a lot more to do in our lives, a lot more you know, potential. And I hear it every day where everyone's feeling stuck, they're feeling unmotivated, they're procrastinating, they have so many dreams that they want to fulfill, but they don't know where to start. And so I want to thank you so much. And do share with us, what do you have going on? Where can we follow you? What's happening? And I know we have some links for you, I believe, that Tiffany will put up, but do share with the audience what's going on.
Well, you know, I teach 3 different courses. I teach my Yes to Success course, which is true success in life. I teach my Ageless course. I've given a half hour's worth of tips, but we have actually 20 hours worth of tips that I teach it with with Lonnie, who is a multiple time published Harvard trained researcher in anti-aging. So I love that course. I teach presentation skills so people could knock it out of the park from the stage and also in Zoom if they want to be a great interviewer like you or a great interviewee. And anyway, so those are the three things that I teach. And, you know, my yes to success.com is me, but I do want to give them that free gift. Oh, there it is. This book, I give you 5 more tips for lifelong radiance. And
wow.
So it's called Ancient and Modern Secrets for Lifelong Radiance. And the wonderful Tiffany, of course, got it up immediately. Yes to success.com/ageless ebook. Don't forget the E in there, ageless ebook. And you'll get 5 more tips on how to turn back the hands of time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deborah. And if you guys want to join us in the VIP room and talk to Lonnie, Deborah, Jeff, they are all going to be there at 1 p.m., which is in like a minute. But if you want to join us, the VIP link is up. Tiffany will put it up for those of you who are on Facebook or YouTube. Deborah, will you be able to stay a few minutes at 1 o'clock? We're going to get started in just a few minutes. If our VIPers have any questions and they want to connect with you.
Yeah, I'm here. Well,
Okay.
Can I eat something?
Of course, you can eat and talk. You can eat and talk.
Because we get a breakfast together because I'm in California. And
it would
I'm
be
actually
awesome.
speaking at a conference. So, and it's going on right now. I said, sorry, I have to leave. I'm going to be with Deepalta this morning. So,
Well, we appreciate it. I'm going to say our last few words while you eat your breakfast, and I'm just going to go ahead and do our closing for today. And then, guys, in the VIP room, we will get started. Okay, we've got drumming today, so I'm very, very excited at 1:30. So come join us behind the scenes and the VIP room, guys. And 50% of your proceeds do go to the Children's Scholarship Funding. And it's near and dear to my heart. It's called VRX Foundation. We are here to support our kids, their future, their dreams, and give them a purpose to move forward, okay? So if you want to donate $97, which gives you all the access to all the replays, all of the 15-minute 15-minute with me. It's a discovery call, as well as many other gifts behind the scenes. You can join us in the VIP room, and Tiffany will put the link. Okay, I think she already did. And so you could just click on it and join us. We'd love to have you. So this brings us to the end. I hope you guys had so much fun. And for those of you who are going to be watching the replay, I hope you had an amazing time, and go back to day 1. There's so much value. Like, I'm so happy. Like, I could read hundreds of books, but what I learned in the last 5 days with all of these speakers is impeccable. Like, I feel like I just won the Golden Globe. And you will too, because there was so much knowledge, so much giving, right? And you are going to be receiving. So don't forget to go back and really tune in, make pauses, take notes, do whatever you have to do, and then take action, right? That's what we really learned this week, is to take action, because that's what's going to get us where we want to be. So to all of you, I extend my deep gratitude. Your presence, engagement, and openness created such an atmosphere of transformation and growth beyond measures, not only for yourself, for me, and everyone here. And together we embarked on a journey of healing, empowerment, and connection that will resonate far beyond the summit's conclusion. Your willingness to explore and learn and evolve serves as a testament to the power of this community and the human spirit. Thank you for trusting me with your journey. Thank you. And for sharing insights, experiences, and for being such a vital part of this transformative event. May the wisdom gained and connections forged continue to illuminate your path and fulfillment and wholeness. I want to thank each and every one of you once again in much gratitude, light, and love. Thank you. And I can't wait to hear the stories of Rise for you in the coming weeks, months, days, years. And I can't wait to see you all again. Thank you and namaste, everybody.